The Gecko Mechanic and the Toy Factory Adventure. Once upon a time, in a small town nestled near the foothills of a mountain range in the middle of nowhere, lived a gecko named Merv. Merv was a regular gecko mechanic, servicing and repairing things like vehicles and robots all day long. He was a bit of an oddball, because all the other geckos in town prefer to just nap all day long, but not Merv. He lived alone in a small apartment on the side of busy Main Street, spending his nights searching for spare parts and his days tinkering in the back of his workshop. Merv was alone and content with his life until one day, while he was out scavenging for parts in the junkyard, he found a mysterious box. Inside the box was a strange-looking toy and a postcard from far away, with directions to a mysterious toy factory. Little did Merv know, but this little box contained a key to his future adventures. The next day, Merv announced to the town that he was going on an adventure to the toy factory. Nobody believed him. In fact, the other geckos laughed in his face and told him he was being ridiculous. But Merv knew he had to try, so he packed up his workshop, filled his rucksack with gadgets, and headed off with the mysterious box of wonders in tow. Merv traveled all day, stopped to eat at the roadside, and headed out to the mountains. He climbed and he stumbled, but eventually he made it to the top and could see the toy factory miles away in the distance. He was so excited that he broke into a run and was at the door of the factory within a couple of hours. The door was locked, obviously, but Merv never gave up easily. He pulled out a gadget from his pack and furiously began tinkering and adjusting knobs, wires, and switches on the mysterious box until, miraculously, it opened the door. Even more miraculously, it opened up a world of adventure for Merv and countless other geckos waiting to explore the toy factory. Merv soon found out that the toy factory was full of puzzles, games, and challenges. He was guided by a helpful park keeper who showed him around the factory. Merv quickly realized that the factory was full of mischievous toys that had escaped from their crates and were causing havoc. With the help of the park keeper, Merv took on the task of finding and trapping the mischievous toys so that the factory could get back to running properly again. Merv and the park keeper began their quest, traveling through the factory and gradually restoring order to the chaotic toy factory. He managed to capture most of the toys and returned them to their rightful places. He then reached out to find the mysterious box again, the one he found in the junkyard, and quickly realized that it was the key to opening the factory's doors and releasing the rest of the toys from their chaotic captors. The gecko mechanic and the park keeper succeeded in their mission, and soon the toy factory was restored to its former glory. As a reward, Merv was given a special prize, a toy robot to take home. He was ecstatic and brought it with him when he left the toy factory. Back at home in his apartment, Merv continued to tinker with his new toy robot. He worked on it day and night, until one morning it came to life. It was a magical moment, seeing the robot move around the room and interact with other robot toys. It was then that Merv realized that this robot was not just any ordinary robot, but a magical one with special powers. Merv soon learned that the robot was sent to him from the toy factory to keep his workshop in order and to help him when he needed it. Merv named the robot Jarvis, and the two of them had many great adventures together. The gecko mechanic and his magical robot had many great adventures together, from helping out around town to traveling to other lands. They never stopped searching for new challenges, and each night, when Merv was in his workshop, the robot would share stories about his adventures at the toy factory. The two were a great team and enjoyed every moment of their newfound friendship. Merv continued to service vehicles and robots in his workshop, and Jarvis continued to help and accompany him on his adventures. Even to this day, Merv and Jarvis can still be found working together, eagerly awaiting their next big adventure. And that, my friends, is the story of the Gecko mechanic and the Toy Factory adventure.
The Lifeguard Dogs and the Adventure on the Enchanted Beach. Once upon a time, near the town of Paradise, there was a small, picturesque beach known as the Enchanted Beach. It was hidden away from the nearby town, and it was said that no one had ever been there. Every evening, 4 brave and intelligent doggies known as the Lifeguard Dogs, led by the wise old dog Sniffer, would leave their homes and embark on a mission to patrol the Enchanted Beach. The cats and the dogs all made sure no harm came to the beach, and all comments of suspicious activity were reported to Sniffer, who pronounced judgment. More often than not, these lifeguards found no trouble while they were on patrol. However, one day the 4 lifeguard dogs noticed something strange in the sand. It was a large door, under a big rock, and was perfectly built with intricate detail, as if someone wanted to keep it away from curious eyes. Sniffer, the wise leader of the 4, suggested they investigate and not fear the unknown, as it could likely be an adventure. Everyone agreed, against the advice of their parents, as such a mythical place must have some hidden treasures, and they wanted to be able to explore. The 4 lifeguard dogs were so excited they raced each other to the large mysterious door, curious as to what existed beyond it. Tally, the sharp-eyed spaniel, was the first one to open the door, while Lily, the clever Labrador, sniffed at the door cautiously, looking for any suspicious smells. Ginger and Pearly, the 2 chihuahuas, were both busy digging for clues around the sand. Once the door was opened, the 4 lifeguard dogs found themselves in a large underwater palace. They quickly noticed the mesmerizing beautiful creatures inside the room, from mercats and merdogs to mermaids and mermen. The underwater creatures seemed to love the lifeguard dogs and welcomed them with open arms. They all wanted to hear about their adventures, so the brave 4 quickly shared the story of the beach and their patrol mission. The Merking and the Merqueen told the lifeguard dogs an enchanting story full of mysteries and wonders. One such incredible thing they spoke of was how the Enchanted Beach used to be full of life. Magical and fascinating creatures would come up from the depths of the ocean and delight the beachgoers with their magical underwater displays. However, the Merking made a major mistake, and as punishment, the magical creatures were no longer allowed to come onto the beach. The 4 lifeguard dogs were enchanted by the enchanting Merking story, and they decided to help him by going on an exciting adventure. Their mission was to find a magical pearl which was said to have the power to fix the mistake made by the Merking and bring life back to the beach. The 4 doggies knew this was going to be no easy task, as the pearl was hidden away in the depths of a mysterious and dangerous cave. But with courage and determination, the brave lifeguards set out on their mission. They encountered many interesting creatures on their journey. They befriended a mercat that was full of funny jokes. They also met a talking fish that tried to send them in the wrong direction with his silly stories. Finally, after many hours of traveling, the courageous lifeguard dogs reached the entrance to the magical cave. Inside the cave they fought off giant spiders and battled off dangerous snakes. After several hours navigating the cave, they found the giant pearl at the very bottom. The 4 brave lifeguard dogs knew that their mission was complete, but they were still confused as to what they should do next. Suddenly Lily remembered that she had a special magical map given to her by Sniffer, which she used to help her find her way out of the cave. She carefully studied the map, and soon figured out how to get back to the beach. The 4 lifeguard dogs were finally back on the beach with the giant magical pearl in tow. Everyone was ecstatic to see them return, and the Merking was so pleased that he thanked them by giving them a special medallion that should protect them from harm. The Merking then did something really magical. He took the magical pearl and threw it deep into the ocean, and soon enough the ocean came alive, with colorful fishes and sparkling sea creatures. The 4 lifeguard dogs and their newfound friends celebrated the return of the magical creatures and enjoyed the show for the rest of the night. From that day onward, the Enchanted Beach was always full of life, wonder, and adventure. The 4 lifeguard dogs were always remembered as a symbol of courage and friendship. They reminded everyone that with a little faith and courage, anything is possible. The end.
The Tale of Timmy the Tiny Turtle and the Giant Wave. Once upon a time, there was a tiny turtle named Timmy who lived in a small pond in the middle of a big city. He was the smallest turtle in the pond, but he was also the bravest. One day, Timmy decided to go on an adventure and explore the world outside of his pond. He was so small that no one noticed him as he made his way through the city streets. But then, Timmy heard a loud noise coming from the ocean. He had never seen the ocean before, so he decided to investigate. When he arrived, he saw a giant wave crashing against the shore. Timmy was scared, but he was also curious. He wanted to know what was causing the giant wave. So, he bravely swam out to the wave and discovered that it was caused by a giant sea monster. The sea monster was so big that it was blocking the sun from shining on the beach. Timmy knew he had to do something to help. He swam up to the monster and asked it to move away from the beach. The sea monster was so surprised that a tiny turtle was talking to it that it agreed to move away. As soon as it did, the sun shone brightly on the beach and everyone cheered. Timmy had saved the day. From that day forward, he was known as the bravest and most courageous turtle in the city. The end.
The Tiger Painter and the Jungle of Colors. Once upon a time, in the deepest corner of the jungle, there lived a wise and adventurous tiger named Mumba. He loved painting the jungle with his beloved paintbrushes and his favorite colors. Mumba ventured far and wide in search of the most vibrant hues. He balanced amongst the branches, zipped through the treetops, and even waded in the cool stream that ran through the forest. One day while Mumba was scavenging for more colors, he happened upon a wondrous sight, the bright and rather large rainbow. Mumba stood in amazement. Colors of all kinds flooded the sky and Mumba was sure he'd never seen anything like it. He was so captivated that he had to get a closer look. He did his best to skitter up the nearest tree and peek over the edge of the rainbow. He had made it to the edge, but something peculiar happened. Suddenly, the rainbow began to move. Mumba followed the spectacular rainbow as it pounced and skittered through the forest. When it stopped, he was amazed to find the most wonderful sights. Around him were vibrant waterfalls that sparkled with every color of the rainbow, and lush gardens filled with brilliantly colored flowers of every shape and size. Mumba soon realized that he had stumbled upon the magical land of colors. He explored its glimmery, stunning beauty, and each corner he visited was more magical than the last. Vibrant rainbow waterfalls, glittering fields of flowers, shimmery, vibrant hues of color everywhere. It was a sight Mumba could not believe. But after many hours of exploration, Mumba noticed something strange. Everywhere he looked, the colors were fading away. He couldn't understand it, what had caused the colors to disappear. As the sky grew darker, Mumba heard an old, wisdom-filled voice from behind him. He spun around to find an ancient tortoise, who told him that he was the only one with the ability to restore the colors of the land of colors. He explained that only with great courage, skill, and imagination could Mumba save the land of colors from fading away into a drab world of colorless shadows. Mumba was ready to accept this challenge. He decided to venture back to the land of colors, paintbrush in paw and full of determination. He painted the most magnificent pictures of the most vibrant colors. He let the colors run wild and explored his creative limits, discovering more and more clever ways to fill the land with life. When he finished, the colors of the land of colors were brighter and more beautiful than ever before. Children flocked to the land of colors to marvel at Mumba's creative genius. To thank Mumba for his magical work, the wise old tortoise presented him with a special paintbrush that he could use to bring the colors of the land of colors to life with just a single brushstroke. Mumba painted his way through the land of colors, the colors of his paintbrush alighting the landscape in its former glory. Everywhere he went, children laughed and celebrated the life and colors that had been brought back. Mumba the tiger became known throughout the jungle as the tiger painter. Everywhere he went, people celebrated him and his many colorful adventures. From then on, Mumba continued to use his incredible paintbrush to chase away the dull gray that threatened the forest. People from near and far came to marvel at the vibrant colors that Mumba had painted, and to thank him for his magnificent work. And, if you listen closely enough, in the depths of the jungle, Mumba could still be heard, creating the most vibrant and imaginative pictures of life, color, and adventure. The end.
The Tiger Shark's Adventure in the Magical Seashell Kingdom. Once upon a time, there lived a tiger shark named Tilly. Tilly was a curious and adventurous shark who loved to explore the depths of the ocean. One day, while swimming around, Tilly stumbled upon a mysterious seashell kingdom. She was amazed by the beauty of the kingdom and decided to explore it further. Tilly swam around the kingdom and noticed that it was filled with all sorts of magical creatures. She saw mermaids, seahorses, and even a few friendly dolphins. Tilly was so excited to explore the kingdom that she didn't notice the giant sea monster lurking in the shadows. Suddenly, the sea monster roared and chased after Tilly. Tilly was scared, but she was also determined to explore the kingdom. She swam as fast as she could, dodging the sea monster's attacks. Finally, Tilly reached the center of the kingdom and found a magical pearl. She grabbed the pearl and the sea monster disappeared. Tilly was so relieved that she decided to stay in the kingdom and explore it further. She made friends with the mermaids and seahorses and even the friendly dolphins. Tilly had the most amazing adventure in the magical seashell kingdom. She learned so much and made so many new friends. The end.
The Toucan and the Search for the Magical Fruit. Once upon a time, in a faraway land there lived a little toucan called John. John was a very curious little bird who was always looking for something new and exciting. He loved to explore and especially loved to explore the lush jungles of his homeland. One day John decided that he would go on an adventure. He packed his little bag with his favorite fruits and set off through the jungle towards the great mountain in the distance. As he was walking along, he heard a strange noise coming from the nearby bushes. When he went to investigate, he found a talking parrot, who introduced himself as George. The parrot told John the story of an ancient legend about a magical fruit far away in the distant mountains. He said that this magical fruit could grant anyone who ate it wishes of great power and fortune. Seeing as John was always up for an adventure and was never one to turn down a challenge, he said goodbye to George and set off on his quest to find the magical fruit. The journey was long and tiring, but eventually, John and his new companion, George, reached the foot of the great mountain. With nothing but the stars in the sky and the occasional sounds of birds in the trees, they started to climb. As they reached the peak of the mountain, a beautiful and mysterious cave appeared in the distance. John was entranced by the sight and decided to investigate the cave. But as he stepped through the entrance, he was met by an intimidating creature with big, beady eyes. He introduced himself as the Grand Wizard, who guarded the magical fruit, warning John that he must prove himself before he could claim it. With no other option, John and George began a series of challenges, which the wizard had created to test John's courage, strength and intelligence. With each challenge, the wizard got harder, and the tasks began to seem almost impossible. John was getting tired and was afraid he would never reach the magical fruit, but then he came up with an idea. He decided to use George, the parrot, to help him. The parrot was very smart and was able to solve the puzzles and challenges the wizard pitted them against. Eventually, John and George were able to complete all of the challenges, and the Grand Wizard granted them access to the magical fruit. With excitement blooming in his chest, John grabbed the magical fruit, and as soon as he touched it, an incredible power surged through his body and he knew he was granted 3 wishes. John thought very hard about what he wanted and eventually decided on 3 things. First, he wished for his beloved Toucan family to have a happy life. Secondly, he wished for his homeland to have endless supplies of food. And thirdly, he wished for peace and harmony for the entire world. The Grand Wizard was pleased with John's wishes and granted him the magical fruit. After thanking the wizard profusely, John and George set off back on their journey. As they reached home, the sky lit up with a rainbow of colors, celebrating the success of John's adventure. The magical fruit granted all of John's wishes, making his land a prosperous and peaceful place, and giving John and George the legend that they had gone on an adventure of a lifetime to the great mountain in search of the magical fruit. The toucan and the search for the magical fruit has been known as a favorite among many children, who find the story both fun and heartwarming. Our little toucan and his talking parrot have become household names, bringing joy and laughter to people everywhere. As the story comes to an end, John and George remind us that no challenge is too big if you believe in yourself and your friends, and that anything is possible if you just believe. The end.
The Timeless Treasure. Once upon a time, in a faraway land, there lived a group of animals who were the best of friends. There was a wise old owl named Ollie, a curious little rabbit named Remy, a brave and adventurous fox named Felix, and a kind-hearted deer named Daisy. One day, while exploring the forest, the friends stumbled upon a mysterious map that led to a hidden treasure. The map was old and worn, but the friends were determined to find the treasure and set off on their adventure. As they journeyed through the forest, they encountered many obstacles, including a raging river and a steep mountain. But with their combined skills and determination, they overcame each challenge and continued on their quest. Finally, after many days of traveling, they arrived at the spot marked on the map. They dug and dug until they uncovered a small chest. Inside, they found a beautiful golden key. But what did the key unlock? The friends searched high and low until they found an old, rusty door hidden behind a thicket of bushes. They inserted the key and turned it, and the door creaked open. Inside, they found a room filled with glittering jewels, sparkling diamonds, and precious gems. But the most valuable treasure of all was a small, glowing orb that seemed to radiate with a magical energy. The friends knew that they had found something truly special, and they decided to share the treasure with the rest of the forest. They used the jewels to build a beautiful fountain in the center of the forest, and the glowing orb became the centerpiece of the fountain. From that day on, the fountain became a gathering place for all the animals in the forest. They would come to drink from the cool, refreshing water and bask in the magical glow of the orb. And so, the timeless treasure became a symbol of friendship and unity in the forest, reminding all who saw it of the power of working together and sharing with others.
The Adventures of the Hermit Crab and the Seaweed Village. Once upon a time, there lived a hermit crab named Carl. He was a very adventurous crab, always looking for something new and exciting to explore. One day, Carl was walking along the beach when he noticed something strange. It was a small village made entirely of seaweed. Carl was so curious that he decided to explore the village. As he walked around, Carl noticed that the village was full of friendly creatures. There were fish, starfish, and even a few octopuses. Everyone was so friendly and welcoming that Carl felt right at home. The village was also full of fun activities. Carl tried his hand at fishing, and even made a few friends along the way. He also explored the village and found a secret cave full of treasure. But the best part of all was the food. The villagers had a special recipe for seaweed soup that was so delicious, Carl couldn't get enough of it. Carl had so much fun in the seaweed village that he decided to stay for a while. He made lots of new friends and even found a new home. The Adventures of the Hermit Crab and the Seaweed Village was a story of friendship, adventure, and delicious food. Carl and his new friends had so much fun exploring the village and discovering its secrets. It was a story that Carl would never forget.
The Amazing Race Through Time. Once upon a time, in a land far, far away, there lived two best friends named Max and Lily. They loved to explore and go on adventures together. One day, while playing in the park, they stumbled upon a mysterious time machine. Without hesitation, Max and Lily hopped into the time machine and pressed a button. Suddenly, they were transported to a different time period. They found themselves in the middle of a race through time. The race was being held by a group of time travelers who were looking for the most adventurous and daring participants. Max and Lily were thrilled to be a part of it. The first stop was the prehistoric era. Max and Lily were amazed to see dinosaurs roaming around. They quickly hopped on the back of a friendly triceratops and raced towards the finish line. Next, they traveled to ancient Egypt where they had to solve a riddle to move on to the next challenge. With their quick thinking, they solved the riddle and moved on to the next stop. The third stop was the medieval era where they had to joust against a fierce knight. Max and Lily were nervous, but they had each other's backs and managed to defeat the knight. The final stop was the future, where they had to race against flying cars and robots. Max and Lily were determined to win and they gave it their all. In the end, they crossed the finish line first and were declared the winners of the amazing race through time. As a reward, Max and Lily were given a special time-traveling medal and were invited to join the group of time travelers on their next adventure. They happily accepted and couldn't wait to see where their next adventure would take them. From that day on, Max and Lily became known as the bravest and most adventurous kids in the land. They continued to go on many more exciting adventures together, always ready for the next challenge that came their way.
The Brave Lion and the Hidden City. Once upon a time there lived a brave lion in the heart of the jungle. Every day he would spend his time roaming around, looking for adventure and the thrill of a challenge. He explored every inch of the jungle and the animals knew him well and always greeted him with a cheerful roar or a unique song. One day, while exploring a particularly remote corner of the jungle, the lion stumbled upon a small cave opening. Its entrance was covered in vines and cobwebs, as if no one had ever been to the cave before. The brave lion decided to investigate, pushing aside the vines and carefully venturing inside the mysterious cave. As he ventured deep into the darkness, the lion soon stumbled upon a majestic golden city. Lights shone from the windows and towers of the city, and the brave lion was filled with awe. Jutting out of the surrounding jungle, it seemed out of place and yet right at home at the same time. But why had the lion never seen this stunning city before? The lion continued to explore this hidden city and soon noticed that the citizens were all animals, just like him. Each one seemed to have a unique and special role, and some even called him by his proper lion name. The city was filled with vibrant colors, laughter, and smiles, and even animals that could talk. The brave lion had never seen anything like it. The lion asked the citizens about the city, and he heard amazing stories of how the city was built, who had lived here, and why it had been kept a secret for so long. They told him about the magical powers that the city held and how the special energy of the city had been used by the citizens to benefit each other. The brave lion was so inspired by this city, he decided to become a permanent resident of the hidden city. He set to work, helping out the citizens and doing anything he could to make the city stronger. The lion offered his assistance, and before long he had become a well-known and respected figure in the city. The citizens of the hidden city and the brave lion became fast friends. They explored the city together, went on adventures, and formed a strong bond of friendship and trust. One day, the lion came across an old and forgotten cave deep in the city. At first, he was hesitant to explore it, but the citizens were filled with excitement and insisted that he venture into its depths. The brave lion decided to take the risk, and popped into the dark cave. As he ventured further and further into the cave, he stumbled upon a beautiful lake filled with glittering stars. He gazed in wonder at the lake, and noticed something else in the corner of his eye. It was a gleaming golden chest, lying at the bottom of the lake. The brave lion took a deep breath and plunged into the lake, swimming all the way to the chest. He opened it up to find a shining gold key. He held the key tightly in his paw, and knew that it was his quest to find out what the key unlocked. The lion returned to the city and asked around, but no one seemed to know what the key was for. One day, while he was looking around the city, the lion noticed a small door he hadn't seen before. Right near that door was a keyhole, and the brave lion knew immediately what he had to do. He inserted the golden key into the keyhole and opened the door. Behind the door was an incredible secret garden filled with beautiful flowers, giant trees, and a whole host of animals. It was the most magical place the lion had ever seen, and he decided to make it his home. He ventured around the garden, discovering new and wonderful things every day. And so the brave lion and the hidden city of animals lived happily ever after, hidden away from the rest of the world, and thankful for the amazing discoveries they had made.
The Comical Cow's Cup and Ball Championship. Once upon a time, in a far-off land, there lived a comical cow named Betsy. Betsy was not like any other cow in the village. She loved to play games and make everyone laugh. One day, Betsy saw a group of animals playing a game called Cup and Ball. She was fascinated by the game and wanted to learn how to play it. Betsy went to the animals and asked them to teach her how to play. The animals were hesitant at first, but Betsy's charm won them over. They taught her how to play the game, and Betsy quickly became an expert. One day, the animals decided to hold a Cup and Ball championship. Betsy was excited and decided to participate. The championship was held in the village square, and all the animals gathered to watch. The first round was between Betsy and a rabbit named Roger. Betsy was nervous, but she remembered all the tips the animals had given her. She played with all her might and won the first round. The next round was between Betsy and a fox named Felix. Felix was known to be the best cup and ball player in the village. Betsy was nervous, but she didn't give up. She played with all her might and won the second round. The final round was between Betsy and a bear named Bruno. Bruno was big and strong, and Betsy was scared. But she remembered all the tips the animals had given her, and she played with all her might. In the end, Betsy won the championship. The animals cheered and congratulated Betsy. They were amazed at how well she had played. Betsy was overjoyed and thanked the animals for teaching her how to play the game. From that day on, Betsy became the most popular cow in the village. She continued to play cup and ball and make everyone laugh. And every year, the animals held a cup and ball championship, and Betsy always won.
The Confident Chameleon's Colorful Celebration. Once upon a time, in a lush jungle, there lived a chameleon named Charlie. Charlie was no ordinary chameleon. He had a special talent that made him stand out from the rest. He could change his color to match any object he wanted to blend in with. One day, Charlie was feeling down. He had noticed that the other animals in the jungle were not as friendly towards him as they were towards each other. They would often stare at him and whisper behind his back. Charlie didn't understand why they were treating him differently. One day, Charlie decided to take a walk in the jungle to clear his mind. As he was walking, he stumbled upon a group of animals who were preparing for a big celebration. They were decorating the trees with colorful flowers and streamers. Charlie was curious and asked them what the celebration was for. One of the animals, a wise old owl, explained that they were celebrating the uniqueness of each animal in the jungle. They were celebrating the fact that every animal had something special about them that made them different from the rest. Charlie was amazed. He had never heard of such a celebration before. He felt a sense of belonging and acceptance. He decided to join in the celebration and show off his special talent. As the celebration began, Charlie changed his color to match the colorful decorations around him. The other animals were amazed and impressed. They had never seen anything like it before. They cheered and clapped for Charlie, making him feel proud and confident. From that day on, Charlie was no longer the outcast in the jungle. He was celebrated and loved for his unique talent. He had found his place in the jungle and was happy to be himself. The moral of the story is that everyone has something special about them that makes them unique. We should celebrate our differences and embrace them. It's what makes us who we are.
The Dancing Bears and the Hip-Hop Competition. Once upon a time, in a far-off land, there lived two bears, Ralph and Cynthia. Sure, they were both bears, but they could not have been more different. While Cynthia was rather shy and introverted, Ralph was quite the opposite, with an effervescent personality and a love of adventure. One day, while out on one of their fun-filled jaunts, Ralph and Cynthia stumbled upon a strange noise. It wasn't the usual sorts of sounds one associates with the woods, no birds chirping, no wind rustling the leaves. No, this sound was something else entirely. The pair slowly moved forward, towards the source of the unusual noise, and as the source became clearer, Ralph's eyes widened in wonder. There, standing in the middle of the clearing, was a group of hip-hop dancers. Ralph had never seen anything like it before. The dancers were performing jumps, twirls and handstands, much to the delight of the small crowd of youngsters who had gathered around them. But then, something curious happened. One of the dancers approached Ralph and Cynthia, and asked if they would like to join in on the fun. After an initial shock, Ralph and Cynthia found themselves performing alongside the dancers. Although it was hard work and they made plenty of mistakes, the two bears soon picked up the dance moves, and before long, were wowing the crowd with their hip-hop moves. After the performance, the dancer in charge announced that the hip-hop competition was about to begin, and Ralph and Cynthia were free to take part. So for days, the two bears worked hard on their dance moves, and as the competition day drew nearer, their excitement only grew. On the day of the competition, Ralph and Cynthia donned their snazziest outfits and stepped onto the stage with all the courage they could muster. To their surprise, they came in second place. Not only had they managed to outdance all the other competitors, but had won over the crowd with their enthusiasm and unique dance moves. The competition was a huge success for Ralph and Cynthia, and since then, the two bears have dedicated themselves to perfecting their hip-hop moves and competing in other competitions. Go Ralph and Cynthia! The moral of the story? Everyone's got something to offer, no matter how different they are from the rest. Whether it's hip-hop dancing or something else entirely, it's worth trying to find your place in the world and creating your own unique identity. Have courage and go for it. The end.
The Fairy Princess and the Dragon. Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, there lived a beautiful fairy princess named Lily. She had long golden hair, sparkling blue eyes, and a heart full of kindness. Lily loved to explore the enchanted forest that surrounded her castle, and she often went on adventures with her best friend, a mischievous little fairy named Tinker. One day, while they were wandering through the forest, they stumbled upon a fierce dragon. The dragon was huge, with scales as black as night and eyes that glowed like fire. Lily and Tinker were terrified, but the dragon surprised them by speaking in a gentle voice. "I mean you no harm," said the dragon. "I am just looking for a friend." Lily and Tinker were amazed. They had never heard of a friendly dragon before. They quickly became friends with the dragon, and they spent many happy days exploring the forest together. But one day, an evil sorcerer came to the kingdom. He was jealous of Lily's beauty and wanted to capture her and make her his queen. He sent his army of dark creatures to attack the castle, and the kingdom was thrown into chaos. Lily knew she had to do something to stop the sorcerer and his army. She turned to her new friend, the dragon, for help. The dragon agreed to help her, and together they flew to the sorcerer's castle. The sorcerer was waiting for them, and he unleashed his most powerful spells. But Lily and the dragon were too strong for him. They fought bravely, and in the end, they defeated the sorcerer and his army. The kingdom was saved, and Lily was hailed as a hero. She knew that she couldn't have done it without her friend, the dragon. From that day on, the fairy princess and the dragon were inseparable. They continued to explore the enchanted forest together, and they had many more adventures. And so, the fairy princess and the dragon lived happily ever after, proving that even the most unlikely of friendships can conquer all.
The Traveling Tortoise and the Mysterious Ocean. Once upon a time there lived a curious little tortoise named Trudy. She spent her days exploring the countryside, the river bank, the meadows, and any other exciting place she could find. One day, Trudy was walking through the woods and came upon a rickety old boat. She thought it was odd but was entranced by its beauty, so Trudy decided to climb in and sit down. To her surprise, the boat suddenly started to float away with her inside. Trudy was not scared, but rather excited. She decided to just go with the flow and enjoy the ride. After a few hours, she arrived at a mysterious, crystal-clear ocean. She had never seen anything so beautiful. Trudy decided to jump into the water and explore. Suddenly, out of nowhere, little bubbles started popping up around her. Trudy knew that this was an opportunity she could not miss. She started following the bubbles through the mysterious ocean and quickly came across a small island. The island was covered with lush green vegetation and had rocky cliffs on one side. On the other side of the island was a beach with clear blue waters, which made Trudy very excited. As Trudy started exploring the island, she came across a cave. She decided to enter, finding many old artifacts such as coins and jewelry. As she kept exploring, she noticed an old chest that seemed to be winking at her. Trudy was so curious she decided to open the chest. As she opened it, a small creature popped out and said, "Hello. My name is Pixie. I'm a magical genie. If you wish for something, I will make it happen." Trudy was astounded by this new friend, but she knew just what she wanted. She wished for a boat that could take her around the mysterious ocean. Of course, Pixie granted her wish, and in a matter of moments he created a beautiful boat with bright pink sails. Trudy was amazed at what Pixie had done and thanked him with all her heart. She then said goodbye to Pixie and promised to come back to visit him whenever she was in the area. Trudy then set sail in her new boat, exploring the mysterious ocean for days. She met all sorts of fascinating creatures, from an octopus who liked to ink his way around the ocean in a colony of friendly, singing starfish. These creatures were so different from anything Trudy had ever seen on land that she could hardly contain her excitement. Eventually, after many days of exploration, Trudy ran out of steam and decided to go back to the island.
She thanked Pixie for helping her fulfill her dreams and then made her way back home. The next day, Trudy invited all of her friends to come visit the mysterious island with her. They all jumped into her boat and set sail, laughing and singing all the way. But this time they had a magical surprise. As they sailed, the ocean started to sparkle and the dolphins started to sing. The travelers were spellbound and, as they sailed along, they encountered all sorts of magical creatures from the mysterious ocean. They laughed, played, and even swam in the sparkling waters. The day had been a complete success and all of Trudy's friends wanted to come back the next day. Every day, the little tortoise and her friends would sail off into the mysterious ocean on her boat and discover more of the magical creatures that lived there. Trudy's magical traveling tortoise adventures became famous all around the world and everyone wanted to hear another wild story or see another amazing place. So when Trudy became homesick and tired of all the traveling, she decided to stay at home and share her stories instead. Trudy's magic had given her friends some of the most incredible adventures ever in the mysterious ocean, and she was determined to make sure they remembered them forever. The end.
The Treasure Hunt in Space. Once upon a time, in a galaxy far, far away, there lived a group of space explorers named Max, Luna, and Cosmo. They loved to travel through space and discover new planets and galaxies. One day, they received a mysterious message from an unknown planet. The message said, "Come to our planet and find the treasure hidden in space." Max, Luna, and Cosmo were thrilled to embark on a new adventure. They set off in their spaceship and landed on the planet. As they stepped out of their spaceship, they saw a beautiful planet with colorful trees and flowers. They also saw a group of friendly aliens who welcomed them to their planet. The aliens told them that the treasure was hidden in a secret location in space. They gave them a map and some clues to help them find the treasure. Max, Luna, and Cosmo thanked the aliens and set off on their treasure hunt. The first clue led them to a planet with a giant volcano. They had to climb to the top of the volcano and find a hidden cave. Inside the cave, they found a key that led them to the next clue. The second clue led them to a planet with a giant maze. They had to navigate through the maze and find a hidden door. Behind the door, they found a treasure chest with a clue to the final location. The final clue led them to a planet with a giant black hole. They had to fly their spaceship through the black hole and find a hidden planet on the other side. On the hidden planet, they found the treasure chest filled with gold coins and precious gems. Max, Luna, and Cosmo were overjoyed with their treasure. They thanked the aliens and set off back to their own galaxy. They knew that they would always remember their treasure hunt in space and the amazing adventure they had. From that day on, Max, Luna, and Cosmo became known as the greatest space explorers in the galaxy. They continued to travel through space and discover new planets and galaxies, always looking for their next adventure.
The Tricky Fox and the Enchanted Maze. Once upon a time, there was a young, clever fox named Jasper. He was a friendly fox, determined to explore the world around him and find wondrous new adventures. Although Jasper was warned to stay away from the enchanted maze near the forest edge, his curiosity and courage kept him coming back. One day, Jasper's best friend, an overly curious squirrel named Skip, decided to join him on one of these adventures. They both knew that an enchanted maze had the potential to bring them on incredible, magical journeys. Just before entering the maze,
Skip and Jasper both noticed a small sign hung on a nearby tree. Only the brave and cunning can complete this maze. Both of them believed they fit the requirements, so they continued on their journey. The maze was even bigger and more magnificent than either of them had ever imagined. The walls were made of stones so slippery and smooth, no animal in the forest could climb over them. It seemed exceptionally magical, and Skip and Jasper began to get a bit scared. However, the two were determined to complete the maze and prove that they were both brave and cunning. Before they could make any attempt to complete the maze, they were suddenly interrupted by an old wizard, standing at the entrance of the maze. His white beard was long and flowing, and his staff lit up with a sparkle every time he moved. He introduced himself as Gandalf the Great, and he warned them both not to enter the maze. He said the maze was too tricky and too dangerous for the likes of Jasper and Skip. Jasper and Skip told the old wizard of their plan to complete the maze and prove they were brave and cunning. Gandalf agreed to let them in only if they agreed to a deal. He said if they completed the maze, he would give them a special cloak to protect them against any kind of evil magic. Though still a bit scared, Jasper and Skip agreed and dove into the maze. As they made their way through, they noticed several obstacles blocking their path. Fake walls, spinning rocks, and shadowy creatures were all out to get them, but luckily Jasper and Skip were quick-witted, strong and determined animals. The deeper into the maze they went, the more enchanted it became. They noticed fire-breathing dragons, talking trees, and even singing stones. Each time they faced a problem, Jasper and Skip figured out a way to make it through. In no time at all, the two best friends found themselves at the end of the enchanted maze, standing in front of a castle made of crystal. As they admired the beauty of the crystal castle, the old wizard Gandalf the Great appeared before them. Gandalf congratulated them both on completing the maze and handed them each a cloak made of velvet and fur. He said this cloak would protect them from all evil, whether it be magical or physical. Jasper and Skip thanked Gandalf for his kindness, put on their new cloaks, and vowed to never again enter the enchanted maze. As they made their way back through the maze, Skip and Jasper reminded themselves how brave and clever they were to have survived and conquered the maze. Jasper and Skip were two of the most legendary adventurers in the forest, conquering the tricky maze and living with the power of magic cloaks. From then on, the two cute friends were known for their courage and cleverness. All the animals in the forest talk about their adventure in the enchanted maze, and each time they visit, the maze seems a bit less scary.
The Underwater Adventure of the Mermaids. Once upon a time, in a magical underwater world, there lived a group of mermaids. They were the most beautiful creatures in the sea, with long, flowing hair and shimmering tails that sparkled in the sunlight. One day, the mermaids decided to go on an adventure. They had heard about a hidden treasure that was buried deep in the ocean, and they were determined to find it. The mermaids set off on their journey, swimming through schools of colorful fish and dodging dangerous sea creatures along the way. They sang songs and played games, enjoying the thrill of the adventure. As they swam deeper and deeper into the ocean, they came across a dark and mysterious cave. The mermaids hesitated for a moment, but then they bravely swam inside. Inside the cave, they found a treasure chest filled with gold and jewels. But as they were admiring their find, they heard a loud growling noise. Suddenly, a giant octopus appeared, blocking their way out of the cave. The mermaids were scared, but they didn't give up. They used their quick thinking and teamwork to outsmart the octopus and escape with the treasure. As they swam back to their home, the mermaids were overjoyed with their adventure. They had found the treasure and had proven to themselves that they were brave and strong. From that day on, the mermaids were known as the bravest and most adventurous creatures in the sea, and they continued to go on many more exciting adventures, always sticking together and never giving up.
The Unstoppable Unicorn's Umbrella Unveiling. Once upon a time, in a magical land far, far away, there lived a unicorn named Sparkles. Sparkles was no ordinary unicorn, for she had a special power that made her unstoppable. She could run faster than the wind, jump higher than the clouds, and even fly through the sky with her magical wings. One day, Sparkles woke up to a cloudy and rainy day. She had never seen rain before, and she didn't know what to do. She didn't want to stay inside all day, so she decided to go out and explore the world. As she was trotting through the forest, she noticed that all the other animals had umbrellas to protect themselves from the rain. Sparkles didn't have an umbrella, and she didn't know where to get one. Suddenly, she saw a sign that read "Umbrella Unveiling" at the Enchanted Forest. Sparkles knew she had to go there and see what it was all about. When she arrived at the Enchanted Forest, she saw a huge crowd of animals gathered around a stage. On the stage was a little mouse named Mickey, who was the inventor of the world's first magical umbrella. Mickey explained that his umbrella was not just any ordinary umbrella. It had the power to make the rain disappear and create a rainbow in its place. Sparkles was amazed and knew she had to have one. But there was a problem. The umbrellas were very expensive, and Sparkles didn't have enough money to buy one. She was about to leave when Mickey called out to her. "Sparkles, I have a special offer just for you. If you can catch the rainbow that appears when I use the umbrella, I will give it to you for free." Sparkles was determined to catch the rainbow, and she ran as fast as she could. She jumped over rocks, dodged trees, and even flew through the air. Finally, she caught the rainbow in her horn, and Mickey gave her the magical umbrella. Sparkles was overjoyed and thanked Mickey for his kindness. She ran back to her home, and as soon as she opened the umbrella, the rain disappeared, and a beautiful rainbow appeared in its place. From that day on, Sparkles was known as the Unstoppable Unicorn with the magical umbrella. She would use it to make the rain disappear and create rainbows for all her friends to enjoy. And Mickey became her best friend, and they would go on many more adventures together. The end.
The Unstoppable Unicorn's Unique Adventure. Once upon a time, in a magical land far, far away, there lived a unicorn named Sparkles. Sparkles was unlike any other unicorn in the land. She had a special gift that made her unique. She could run faster than any other unicorn, jump higher than any other unicorn, and her horn glowed brighter than any other unicorns. One day, Sparkles decided to go on an adventure. She wanted to explore the enchanted forest and see all the wonders it had to offer. As she trotted through the forest, she met a group of animals who were struggling to cross a river. The river was too wide and too deep for them to cross. Sparkles knew she had to help. She used a special gift to jump over the river and back again, carrying each animal across one by one. The animals were amazed by Sparkle's abilities and thanked her for her help. As Sparkles continued on her adventure, she met a group of fairies who were in trouble. They had lost their magic wands and couldn't perform their spells without them. Sparkles used her glowing horn to light up the dark forest and help the fairies find their wands. The fairies were grateful for Sparkles' help and asked her to join them on their journey to the fairy kingdom. Sparkles happily agreed, and together they traveled through the forest, encountering many obstacles along the way. But Sparkles was unstoppable. She used a special gift to overcome every obstacle and help her new friends. When they finally reached the fairy kingdom, the fairies threw a big celebration in Sparkles' honor. Sparkles realized that her unique gift was not a disability, but a special ability that allowed her to help others in need. She felt proud of who she was and knew that she could accomplish anything she set her mind to. From that day on, Sparkles continued to go on many adventures, always using a special gift to help those in need. And she lived happily ever after, knowing that being different was what made her truly special.
The uplifting umbrella bird's unwavering unity. Once upon a time, in a lush rainforest, there lived a group of birds. They were all different colors and sizes, but they all had one thing in common: they loved to fly. One bird, in particular, stood out from the rest. His name was Ulysses, and he was an umbrella bird. Ulysses was different from the other birds. He had a large, colorful umbrella-like crest on his head that he could open and close. Some of the other birds made fun of him for it, but Ulysses didn't let it bother him. He knew that his crest made him unique and special. One day, a group of birds from a neighboring forest came to visit. They were amazed by Ulysses' crest and wanted to know more about him. Ulysses was happy to share his story with them and even showed them how he could open and close his crest. The other birds were impressed and wanted to learn how to do it too. Ulysses was happy to teach them, and soon, all the birds were opening and closing their crests together. They realized that even though they were all different, they could still come together and have fun. From that day on, the birds flew together as a group, with Ulysses leading the way. They called themselves the uplifting umbrella birds, and they were known throughout the rainforest for their unwavering unity. The other birds no longer made fun of Ulysses' crest. Instead, they admired it and saw it as a symbol of their unity. Ulysses was happy to have made new friends and to have shown them that being different is something to be proud of. And so, the uplifting umbrella birds continued to fly together, spreading joy and unity throughout the rainforest. They knew that no matter what differences they had, they were all part of the same flock, and that was all that mattered.
The Vibrant Viper's Valentine Voyage. Once upon a time, in a lush green jungle, there lived a vibrant viper named Vinny. Vinny was known for his colorful scales and his love for adventure. He was always on the lookout for new places to explore and new friends to make. One day, as Vinny was slithering through the jungle, he stumbled upon a beautiful flower. It was a bright red rose, and it smelled divine. Vinny knew that he had to give this rose to someone special, someone he cared about deeply. As he was pondering who to give the rose to, he heard a faint cry for help. It was coming from a nearby river. Vinny quickly slithered towards the river and saw that his friend, a little frog named Freddy, was stuck in the mud. Without hesitation, Vinny used his strong coils to pull Freddy out of the mud. Freddy was grateful and asked Vinny why he was carrying a rose. Vinny explained that he wanted to give it to someone special, but he didn't know who. Freddy suggested that Vinny take the rose on a voyage down the river. He said that Vinny would meet many new friends along the way, and maybe he would find the perfect person to give the rose to. Vinny loved the idea and set off on his Valentine voyage down the river. He met all sorts of creatures, from chatty parrots to sleepy slugs. But none of them seemed like the right person to give the rose to. As the sun began to set, Vinny was feeling discouraged. He had met so many wonderful creatures, but none of them felt like the perfect match for his rose. Just as he was about to give up, he heard a soft voice calling out to him. It was a beautiful butterfly named Bella. She had been watching Vinny's journey down the river and was touched by his kindness and bravery. She said that she would be honored to receive the rose from Vinny. Vinny was overjoyed and presented the rose to Bella. She was thrilled and thanked Vinny for his kindness. From that day on, Vinny and Bella became the best of friends, and they went on many more adventures together. And so, the Vibrant Viper's Valentine voyage ended with a happy ending. Vinny had found the perfect person to give his rose to, and he had made a new friend along the way.
The Vibrant Vulture's Victory Voyage. Once upon a time, in a far-off land, there lived a vibrant vulture named Vinny. Vinny was not like the other vultures in his flock. He had bright, colorful feathers that shone in the sun, and he loved to sing and dance. One day, Vinny decided to set off on a voyage to explore the world. He packed his bags and set off on his journey, singing and dancing along the way. As he traveled, Vinny met many different animals, each with their own unique talents and abilities. He met a monkey who could swing from tree to tree with ease, a cheetah who could run faster than the wind, and a dolphin who could swim through the water like a fish. Despite his differences, Vinny never felt left out or alone. He was always welcomed with open arms by the other animals, who loved him for who he was. One day, Vinny came across a group of animals who were struggling to cross a river. The water was too deep and fast for them to cross on their own. Without hesitation, Vinny used his colorful feathers to create a bridge across the river, allowing the animals to cross safely. The other animals were amazed by Vinny's kindness and creativity. They realized that Vinny's differences were what made him special and unique. From that day on, Vinny was known as the hero of the animal kingdom. He continued to travel and explore, spreading joy and happiness wherever he went. And so, the Vibrant Vulture's victory voyage came to an end. But his legacy lived on forever. Vinny taught us that our differences are what make us special, and that we should always embrace and celebrate them.
The Vibrant Vulture's Volcano Vacation. Once upon a time, in a faraway land, there lived a vibrant vulture named Victor. Victor was a very colorful bird with bright feathers of red, blue, and green. He lived in a cozy nest on top of a tall tree in the middle of a dense forest. One day, Victor decided that he needed a break from his routine life and wanted to go on a vacation. He thought long and hard about where he should go, and finally, he decided to visit a volcano. Victor packed his bags and set off on his adventure. As he flew over the forest, he met a friendly monkey named Max, who was swinging from tree to tree. Max was curious about Victor's vacation plans and asked if he could join him. Victor was delighted to have a companion and happily agreed. Together, they flew over mountains and valleys until they reached the volcano. As they landed, they saw that the volcano was not like any other they had seen before. It was a magical volcano that had a hot spring, a waterfall, and a cave filled with precious gems. Victor and Max were thrilled to explore the volcano and decided to start with the hot spring. They dipped their feet in the warm water and relaxed. Suddenly, they heard a loud noise coming from the cave. Curious, they went to investigate and found a group of mischievous monkeys stealing the precious gems. Victor and Max knew they had to stop them, so they came up with a plan. Victor used his colorful feathers to distract the monkeys while Max snuck up and grabbed the gems. The monkeys were caught off guard, and Victor and Max managed to retrieve the gems and return them to the cave. The volcano was grateful to Victor and Max for saving its treasures, and as a reward, it granted them a wish. Victor wished for a new friend, and the volcano granted his wish by introducing him to a friendly parrot named Polly. Victor, Max, and Polly had a wonderful time exploring the volcano and became the best of friends. They returned home with many stories to tell and memories to cherish. From that day on, Victor, Max, and Polly went on many more adventures together, and their friendship grew stronger with each passing day. The end.
The Wacky Woodpecker's Window Washing. Once upon a time, in a forest far away, there lived a wacky woodpecker named Woody. Woody was known for his love of adventure and his mischievous ways. One day, as he was flying through the forest, he noticed that all the animals were having trouble seeing out of their windows. The windows were so dirty that they could barely see the beautiful forest outside. Woody knew he had to do something to help his friends. He decided to become a window washer. He gathered all the supplies he needed and set out to clean every window in the forest. As he flew from tree to tree, he met all sorts of animals who needed their windows cleaned. First, he helped a family of squirrels who had a hard time seeing their acorn stash. Then, he helped a family of rabbits who couldn't see the carrots growing in their garden. Finally, he helped a family of birds who couldn't see the beautiful sunrise. Woody worked tirelessly, cleaning every window in the forest. He even had a little fun along the way, playing pranks on his animal friends. But in the end, he knew he had done a good deed and made the forest a brighter and happier place. The animals were so grateful for Woody's hard work that they threw him a big party. They danced and sang and feasted on acorns and carrots. Woody was so happy that he had made a difference in the lives of his friends. From that day on, Woody became known as the Wacky Woodpecker who saved the forest from dirty windows. And every time he flew through the forest, he smiled knowing that he had made a difference in the lives of his animal friends.
The Walrus and the Whimsical Watermelon. Once upon a time, in a far-off land, there lived a walrus named Wally. Wally was a friendly and curious walrus who loved to explore the world around him. One day, while wandering through a lush green field, he stumbled upon a whimsical watermelon. The watermelon was unlike any other Wally had ever seen. It was bright pink and had a mischievous grin on its face. Wally was intrigued and decided to strike up a conversation with the watermelon. "Hello there, my name is Wally." "What's your name?" asked Wally. The watermelon replied, "My name is Willy, and I'm a whimsical watermelon. I love to play tricks on people and make them laugh." Wally was amused by Willy's playful nature and decided to spend the day with him. They played games, told jokes, and even had a watermelon seed spitting contest. As the day came to an end, Wally realized that he had made a new friend in Willy. He promised to come back and visit him again soon. Days turned into weeks, and Wally visited Willy every chance he got. They had many adventures together, from exploring the nearby forest to swimming in the nearby lake.
One day, while they were playing hide and seek, Willy suddenly disappeared. Wally searched high and low but couldn't find him anywhere. He was worried and sad, thinking he had lost his friend forever. Just when Wally was about to give up, he heard a familiar giggle. He followed the sound and found Willy hiding behind a bush, trying to stifle his laughter. "Willy, you scared me. I thought I had lost you forever," said Wally. Willy replied, "I'm sorry, Wally. I just wanted to play a little prank on you. I'm still here, and I'll always be your friend." Wally was relieved and happy to have his friend back. They hugged and continued their adventures together, knowing that their friendship was strong enough to withstand any prank or challenge that came their way. And so, Wally and Willy, the walrus and the whimsical watermelon, continued to explore the world around them, making memories and having fun together.
The Warrior Jaguars and the Battle of the Forest. Once upon a time in a dense, mysterious forest, there lived a family of jaguars, known as the Warrior Jaguars. The Warrior Jaguars were brave and loyal, and kept the entire forest safe from danger. The Warrior Jaguars had been living peacefully in their forest for many years, when suddenly one day, their tranquility was disrupted by strange howling noises. Every night, the howls grew steadily louder and more menacing, until finally the Warrior Jaguars knew something was very wrong in their forest. As the alpha jaguar of the family, the leader of the Warrior Jaguars, it was up to him to investigate the strange noises and find out what was causing them. So, with the help of the other members of his family, he set off into the deep, dark depths of the forest to find out what was going on. After a few hours, they emerged from the darkness to find that the entire forest was in chaos, and it was clear that something was very wrong. Everywhere their eyes looked, there were strange, furry creatures running and scurrying about, making all sorts of strange noises. These creatures, it seemed, were the source of the strange howling noise. The leader of the Warrior Jaguars, seeing the state of their beloved forest, knew instantly that the creatures had to be stopped. With a brave heart, he summoned all the strength in him, and with the help of his family and the other animals of the forest, they set out to take down the creatures and restore peace to their home. The battle that followed was unlike anything anyone had ever seen in the forest before. For hours it went on, with either side backing down. The Warrior Jaguars fought bravely and fiercely, but the creatures seemed to be unbeatable. Just when all hope seemed lost, one of the young cubs noticed something strange about one of the creatures. It seemed to be a bit different to all the others, and had a charm on its neck. The cub bravely dove forward and pulled off the charm, and the forest was suddenly restored to an eerie silence. They gazed at the charm in astonishment, and were surprised to see that it had the symbol of an ancient, powerful wizard carved onto it. It seemed that the wizard had been using his dark magic to create the creatures and cause havoc in the forest. The leader of the Warrior Jaguars, seeing that their forest had been saved, filled with gratitude and joy. To mark their victory, they howled into the night sky in celebration, filling the forest with an echo of happiness that could be heard for miles around. In the days and weeks following, the Warrior Jaguars set about restoring the forest, removing all evidence of the creatures, and returning peace and balance to the ancient wood. The battle of the forest was a long and difficult one, but thanks to the courage, loyalty, and bravery of the Warrior Jaguars, they were successful in protecting their home and restoring its greatness. And so the tale of the Warrior Jaguars and the Battle of the Forest arose, and it continues to be a reminder of the loyalty and courage of the Jaguar family, and of the power of friendship and loyalty in challenging times.
The whale with an uncontrollable wobble. Once upon a time, in the deep blue sea, there lived a whale named Wally. Wally was a happy-go-lucky whale who loved to swim and play with his friends. However, there was one thing that made Wally different from all the other whales. He had an uncontrollable wobble. Whenever Wally tried to swim straight, his tail would wobble from side to side, making him zigzag through the water. His friends would often tease him, but Wally didn't mind. He knew he was special, and he loved his wobble. One day, while Wally was swimming with his friends, they heard a distress call from a group of dolphins. The dolphins were trapped in a fishing net and needed help. Wally knew he had to do something to save his friends. Despite his wobble, Wally swam as fast as he could towards the dolphins. He used his big body to push against the net, and with one mighty push, he broke the net open, freeing the dolphins. Wally's friends were amazed at his bravery and strength. They realized that Wally's wobble was not a weakness, but a unique gift that made him special. From that day on, they never teased him again. Wally became a hero in the sea, and all the creatures looked up to him. He continued to swim and play with his friends, but now he knew that his wobble was not something to be ashamed of, but something to be proud of. And so, Wally the whale with an uncontrollable wobble lived happily ever after, inspiring others to embrace their differences and be proud of who they are.
The Whimsical Wombat's Watermelon Wipeout. Once upon a time, in a far-off land, there lived a whimsical wombat named Wally. Wally was a happy-go-lucky wombat who loved to play and have fun. One day, while wandering through the forest, Wally stumbled upon a juicy, ripe watermelon. Wally's eyes lit up with excitement as he imagined the delicious taste of the watermelon. He picked it up and started to roll it around, but before he knew it, he lost his balance and tumbled down a hill. As he rolled down the hill, the watermelon bounced and rolled along with him. Wally was having the time of his life, but little did he know that he was headed straight for a group of his animal friends who were having a picnic. As Wally and the watermelon came crashing into the picnic, his friends were surprised but quickly joined in on the fun. They all took turns rolling the watermelon around and playing games with it. But as the day went on, the watermelon started to get smaller and smaller until it was just a small, round ball. Wally and his friends were sad that their fun was coming to an end, but then Wally had an idea. He suggested they all work together to plant the watermelon seeds and grow their own watermelon patch. They all agreed, and soon they were digging and planting and watering their new watermelon patch. Months went by, and finally, the watermelons were ripe and ready to be picked. Wally and his friends had a big watermelon feast, and they all agreed that it was the best watermelon they had ever tasted. From that day on, Wally and his friends had a new tradition of growing their own watermelons every year. And every time they ate a watermelon, they remembered the fun they had on that day when the Whimsical Wombat's Watermelon Wipeout turned into a new adventure.
The Wild Journey of Buzzy the Bee and the Flower Power Parade. Once upon a time, there was a bee named Buzzy who lived in a meadow full of wildflowers. Buzzy was a very adventurous bee, and he loved to explore the meadow and discover new things. One day, Buzzy was out exploring when he stumbled upon a magical flower. This flower was unlike any other flower he had ever seen before. It was bright and colorful, and it seemed to be glowing with a mysterious power. Buzzy was so intrigued by the flower that he decided to take it with him on his journey. He flew off with the flower in his mouth, and soon he was soaring through the sky. As Buzzy flew, he noticed that the flower was beginning to glow brighter and brighter. Suddenly, the flower burst into a shower of sparks and a parade of colorful butterflies appeared. The butterflies flew around Buzzy in a beautiful pattern, and soon he was surrounded by a rainbow of colors. Buzzy was so amazed by the sight that he couldn't help but laugh. The butterflies flew around Buzzy for what seemed like hours, and then they suddenly flew away. Buzzy was left alone in the sky, but he was still filled with joy from the experience. The next day, Buzzy decided to share his experience with the other bees in the meadow. He told them all about the magical flower and the parade of butterflies, and soon the other bees were buzzing with excitement. The bees decided to have their own parade to celebrate the power of the flower. They flew around the meadow in a wild and colorful pattern, and soon the meadow was filled with the sound of buzzing and laughter. The bees named their parade the Flower Power Parade, and it became an annual event in the meadow. Every year, Buzzy and the other bees would gather to celebrate the power of the flower and the joy of friendship. The end.
The Wild West Rodeo. Once upon a time, in the Wild West, there was a rodeo that everyone was talking about. It was the biggest and most exciting rodeo in the whole wide world. Cowboys and cowgirls from all over the land came to compete in the rodeo, hoping to win the grand prize. Among the competitors was a little cowgirl named Rosie. She had always dreamed of being a rodeo star, and this was her chance to prove herself. Rosie had a trusty horse named Lucky, who was her best friend and partner in all her adventures. On the day of the rodeo, Rosie and Lucky arrived early to warm up and get ready for their event. They were competing in the barrel racing competition, which was one of the most challenging events in the rodeo. As they waited for their turn, Rosie and Lucky watched the other cowboys and cowgirls compete. They saw some amazing feats of riding and roping, but they also saw some funny mishaps and mistakes. Finally, it was Rosie and Lucky's turn to compete. They galloped into the arena, and the crowd cheered them on. Rosie and Lucky weaved in and out of the barrels, going faster and faster with each turn. They were doing great, until Lucky stumbled and almost fell. Rosie was scared, but she didn't give up. She urged Lucky on, and they finished the race with a flourish. The crowd went wild, and Rosie and Lucky were declared the winners of the barrel racing competition. Rosie was overjoyed, and she hugged Lucky tightly. They had done it. They had won the Wild West Rodeo. From that day on, Rosie and Lucky were known as the best cowgirl and horse team in the Wild West. They continued to compete in rodeos all over the land, and they always had a great time together. And so, the Wild West Rodeo became a legend, and Rosie and Lucky became heroes. They showed that with hard work, determination, and a little bit of luck, anyone can achieve their dreams.
The Wise Owl's Adventures in the Magical Library. Once upon a time, there lived a wise old owl named Adeline. Adeline loved to read and spent her days in the library, reading all about the stories and tales of the magical world. One day, Adeline was lounging in her favorite chair in the library, when suddenly she heard a loud rumble. She looked around, but couldn't see anything out of the ordinary. Then she heard a creaking noise, and the wall behind her started to move. A secret door was opening up.
Adeline was filled with curiosity. She stepped through the door and found herself in an incredible place. Everywhere she looked, she could see endless rows of books. In the center of it all was a giant desk with a mysterious figure sitting behind it. Adeline realized that she had stumbled upon the magical library. The figure behind the desk was none other than the librarian, a very wise old man who had seen and experienced many things in his long life. He welcomed Adeline and offered her a seat. He began to tell her about the wonderful things one can find in the magical library. He told her about enchanted books, rare manuscripts, warning messages from faraway places, and secrets of the magical world. He even showed her how to use the special powers of the library. Adeline was so excited to learn more and explore the library. She thanked the librarian, who gave her a special pair of spectacles so she could read the magical texts. He then told her to beware of the wicked books and warned her about the consequences of misusing the library's powers. Adeline thanked the librarian for the warning and left on her adventure. She nervously followed the winding paths of the library, exploring its never-ending corridors and discovering rare books filled with strange and wonderful stories. But soon Adeline realized that she was not alone. A mischievous little fairy had followed her into the library and was determined to show her a good time. At first, the fairy just seemed to be a nuisance, but soon Adeline started to enjoy her company. Together they explored the library, discovering its secrets and having some magical adventures along the way. They found a secret room filled with ancient artifacts, talked to a talking book, and even tried out a few spells. All the while, Adeline and the fairy heard about a powerful sorcerer who supposedly kept something very important in the library and was determined to keep it hidden from prying eyes. Adeline and the fairy kept their eyes peeled and their ears open, but were unable to discover what the sorcerer was hiding. Eventually, Adeline and the fairy decided to leave the library, much wiser and more knowledgeable than when they arrived. As they left the librarian told them that the magical library is always there for them when they want to learn more about the mysteries of the magical world. Adeline and the fairy thanked the librarian and said goodbye before heading off on their next adventure, wherever that may lead them. They realized that with their newfound knowledge, they could now protect themselves from the sorcerer and discover the secrets of the magical world. And that is the story of the wise owl's adventures in the magical library.
The Wise Squirrel and the Enchanted Oak. Once upon a time, in a magical forest far away, lived a wise old squirrel called Woody. His home was an old oak, twisted and gnarled by time and legend, in the center of a clearing. The tree was known by many as the Enchanted Oak, as it had been given special powers by the forest sprites, who flitted around the forest and kept it safe. Every morning, after tending to his oak, Woody would sit atop the oak's highest branches and scan the forest for any sign of danger. One morning, as he surveyed the forest, Woody spotted a group of beavers busily constructing a dam near the edge of the clearing, flooding the land around it. He immediately knew that the beavers were up to no good, and so he wrote a note to warn the other forest animals, who lived in harmony under the protection of the Enchanted Oak. That night, as the sun went down, a magical mist descended across the clearing, bringing with it a strange, deep humming and a mysterious glowing light. Baffled by this strange occurrence, Woody climbed down from his oak and began to investigate. As he reached the center of the clearing, a giant glowing creature appeared, in the midst of the mist. The creature towered over Woody, its huge antlers casting an eerie light across the clearing, and its bright eyes twinkling in the darkness. The creature identified himself as the king of the forest, and told Woody that he had come to share his wisdom with the forest animals.
He explained that he was a magical creature, and that each of his antlers held a special gift, a power which he could use to protect the forest animals. The king also told Woody that he had sensed the beaver's evil plan to damage the forest and he had come to ensure that this did not happen. Woody thanked the king for his gift, and the two discussed ways that the king could help protect the forest and its inhabitants. The king had some brilliant ideas, and with his help and guidance Woody was able to make the forest a much safer, happier place. The king also gave Woody his antlers to keep as a reminder of his wisdom and to ensure the safety of all the creatures who lived under the protection of the enchanted oak. With the king's help, the beaver's evil plan was foiled and peace was restored to the forest. Woody, with the help of the king and the antlers, would go on to protect the forest and its inhabitants for many years to come. The animals of the forest have since shared the story of Woody and the enchanted oak to each new generation, a reminder that no matter how big the problem, a wise old squirrel, a magical forest king and a little bit of forest magic can help make the impossible a reality.
The Wise Walrus's Winning Whisker. Once upon a time, in a far-off land, there lived a wise walrus named Wally. Wally was known throughout the land for his long, bushy whiskers that he took great pride in. He would spend hours grooming them, making sure they were always neat and tidy. One day, Wally decided to enter a whisker competition. He knew that his whiskers were the best in the land, and he was sure he would win. But when he arrived at the competition, he saw that all the other contestants had whiskers that were just as long and bushy as his. Wally was worried. He didn't know how he was going to win the competition. But then he had an idea. He decided to use his whiskers to help others. He used them to sweep the floors of the local school, to tickle the tummies of the babies at the hospital, and to help the elderly with their gardening. As he went about his good deeds, Wally noticed something strange. People were no longer looking at his whiskers. They were looking at him, and they were smiling. They loved him for the kind things he was doing. On the day of the competition, Wally was nervous. But when it was his turn to show off his whiskers, he didn't just stand there and let them speak for themselves. He told the judges about all the good things he had done with them. The judges were impressed. They had never seen a contestant use their whiskers for good before. And so, Wally won the competition, not just for his whiskers, but for his kind heart. From that day on, Wally continued to use his whiskers to help others. And he became known not just as the walrus with the best whiskers, but as the kindest walrus in the land. The end.
The Wishing Well. Once upon a time, in a small village nestled in the heart of a lush forest, there was a magical wishing well. The villagers believed that if they threw a coin into the well and made a wish, it would come true. One day, a young girl named Lily stumbled upon the wishing well while exploring the forest. She was curious and decided to make a wish. She threw a coin into the well and wished for a friend. To her surprise, a small creature appeared before her. It was a tiny fairy with shimmering wings and a mischievous grin. The fairy introduced herself as Tilly and offered to be Lily's friend. Lily was overjoyed and spent the whole day playing with Tilly. They danced, sang, and explored the forest together. As the sun began to set, Tilly had to leave, but promised to return the next day. Over the next few days, Lily and Tilly became inseparable. They had many adventures together and shared many laughs. However, one day, Tilly became sad and told Lily that she had to leave forever. Lily was heartbroken and didn't want Tilly to go. She wished upon the wishing well for Tilly to stay with her forever. Suddenly, the well began to glow, and Tilly's wings began to sparkle. Tilly transformed into a human girl and hugged Lily tightly. She explained that she was under a spell and could only be freed by a true friend's wish. Lily had been that friend, and Tilly was now free to stay with her forever. From that day on, Lily and Tilly were the best of friends. They continued to have many adventures together, and the villagers marveled at the magic of the wishing well. It had brought two friends together and made their wish come true.
The Wizarding World of Harry Potter. Once upon a time, in a magical land far, far away, there was a young wizard named Harry Potter. Harry lived in a world filled with magic, where dragons flew through the sky and unicorns roamed the forests. One day, Harry received an invitation to attend the Wizarding World, a place where all the greatest wizards and witches gathered to learn and practice their magic. Excited to explore this new world, Harry set off on his journey. As he arrived at the Wizarding World, Harry was greeted by a group of friendly wizards and witches who showed him around. He saw towering castles, bubbling cauldrons, and even a magical broomstick race. But the most exciting part of the Wizarding World was the creatures. Harry met a friendly giant named Hagrid, who introduced him to a group of mischievous pixies. He also encountered a group of mischievous goblins who loved to play pranks on unsuspecting wizards. As Harry explored the Wizarding World, he made many new friends, including a brave young witch named Hermione and a loyal wizard named Ron. Together, they went on many adventures, battling evil wizards and saving the magical world from danger. In the end, Harry realized that the Wizarding World was not just a place of magic and wonder, but also a place of friendship and love. He knew that he would always cherish the memories of his time there, and he looked forward to many more adventures in the future. And so, Harry Potter continued to explore the Wizarding World, always ready for whatever magical adventures lay ahead.
The Wolf's Adventure on the Mountain of Dreams. Once there was a family of 4 wolves living in a thicket in the middle of a large forest. Mama Wolf, Papa Wolf, and 2 pups, Little Red and Big Blue. For years they roamed through the forests and plains, spotting different animals, chasing rabbits, and howling at the moon. One night, as they were sprawling together in their den, Mama Wolf noticed something strange. High up in the distance, she swore she saw a mountain that wasn't there before. It was a majestic, blue mountain, and one unusual thing about it made it look even more inviting, a streak of pink running from the bottom to the top. She knew that something special must be there. Mama Wolf quickly called out to her pups, telling them to join her in an adventure to find out what was on the Mountain of Dreams. Little Red and Big Blue were instantly filled with excitement, and the 4 wolves set off the next morning. The days of their long journey were filled with new and remarkable sights, but nothing compared to the view of the mountain they had been searching for. It rose up before them in all its grandeur, a brilliant blue color changing to hints of pink as they got closer. Surely there had to be something special on this mountain, they thought. It took them days to reach the summit of the mountain, and Mama Wolf and the pups had plenty of time to ponder what they might find at the top. As they got closer, they realized why the mountain was known as the Mountain of Dreams. Atop the peak of the mountain was a magnificent castle, and standing at its gates was a giant made of clouds. He was there to guard the entrance and spoke with an air of wisdom. He bowed deeply as the wolves arrived, and he explained that the Mountain of Dreams was home to a secret people. They had the power to make dreams come true, and only those loyal of heart were allowed to stay. The giant opened the gates and allowed the wolves inside, and they were taken aback by what was before them. Everywhere they looked were lush gardens, vivid colors, and magical creatures. They seemed to be in a world of its own, a world of wonder. That night, they were invited to a feast where they met a group of people who looked like no other they had seen before. They were known as dreamers, and they explained that they had the power to make any wish or dream come true. Big Blue was silent at first, but then he said the words that would change his life. He wanted to fly. The dreamers knew a plan to make that dream come true. Little Red and Big Blue would have to travel down the mountain and obtain 5 feathers from an eagle's nest. But there was a catch. They had to do this without being seen. The dreamers conjured a spell to make the brothers invisible, and off they went. It took Little Red and Big Blue days to find the eagle's nest, and even when they did, getting close enough to pluck a feather without being seen was quite the challenge. But nothing could dim their determination as they set off back up the mountain, feathers in hand. That night, the dreamers mixed up their ingredients and made a special beverage, one that would endow the brothers with the gift of flight. Little Red and Big Blue were thrilled, and the family of wolves watched in awe as they flew higher and higher above the mountain. They were so entranced by the night sky, they didn't realize the mistake they made until moments later. The mountain was fading away. The dreamers had explained that the spell wore off when they left the mountain and they had stayed away too long. They would not be able to find their way back. The family of wolves was lost, but their hope faded away when, in the distance, they saw a small cottage. Surely here they would be able to find some help and get back home. They knocked on the door, and out came a kind old man. He welcomed them, and after explaining the situation, he invited them inside. The cottage was filled with all sorts of strange artifacts, and he told them that he was an explorer from far away who had found his way to the mountain many years ago. He had never been able to return, but he had made it his home and now he lived there alone. The old man explained to Little Red and Big Blue how they too could find their way home. They just had to sit in 2 special chairs and close their eyes. He then told the brothers that they were holding the last 2 feathers they needed. Little Red and Big Blue each took one, and the old man cast the spell that would take them back home. Suddenly, they were in their thicket, the vibrant colors, the dreamers and their wondrous castle, and the grand mountain, were all gone. Little Red and Big Blue had been on one incredible adventure, and they were happy to be home. Although the family of wolves never saw the Mountain of Dreams again, they kept the story alive for generations.
The Extraordinary X-Ray Fish's Xylophone Extravaganza. Once upon a time, in a magical underwater world, there lived a very special fish named Xander. Xander was no ordinary fish, he was an extraordinary X-ray fish. He had the ability to see through anything and everything, even the thickest walls and the darkest caves. One day, Xander was swimming around the coral reef when he stumbled upon a shiny object. It was a xylophone. Xander had never seen anything like it before. He was fascinated by the colorful keys and the beautiful sound it made when he tapped them with his fins. Xander decided to put on an xylophone extravaganza for all his underwater friends. He invited everyone he knew, from the tiny seahorses to the giant whales. They all gathered around the coral reef, eager to hear Xander's musical talents. Xander started playing the xylophone, and the sound was magical. It was like nothing anyone had ever heard before. The fish started dancing and swaying to the beat, and the seahorses twirled around in circles. Suddenly, a group of mischievous crabs appeared. They didn't like the music and wanted to ruin the xylophone extravaganza. They started snapping their claws and making loud noises, trying to disrupt the performance. But Xander didn't let them ruin the fun. He used his X-ray vision to see through the crabs' shells and found out that they were just jealous of his musical talent. So, he invited them to join in the xylophone extravaganza. The crabs were hesitant at first, but they soon realized how much fun it was to play music and dance with their underwater friends. They started tapping their claws on the xylophone keys, and the sound was even more beautiful than before. From that day on, Xander's xylophone extravaganza became a regular event in the underwater world. Everyone looked forward to it, and even the crabs joined in the fun. Xander had shown them that music can bring everyone together, no matter how different they may seem. And so, the extraordinary X-ray fish's xylophone extravaganza became a legend in the underwater world, and Xander became known as the most talented musician in the sea.
The Extraordinary Xerxes' Exceptional Experience. Once upon a time, in a far-off land, there lived a little Xerxes named Xander. Xander was no ordinary Xerxes. He had a special talent that made him stand out from the rest. He could run faster than any other Xerxes in the land, and he loved to show off his skills to his friends. One day, Xander heard about a big race that was going to take place in the forest. All the animals in the land were going to participate, and Xander knew he had to be a part of it. He practiced every day, running faster and faster, until he was sure he could win the race. On the day of the race, Xander was nervous but excited. He lined up with all the other animals, and the race began. Xander ran as fast as he could, his little legs moving so quickly they were a blur. He could hear the other animals cheering him on, and he felt a surge of energy. As he approached the finish line, Xander could see that he was in the lead. He pushed himself even harder, and with a burst of speed, he crossed the finish line first. The other animals cheered and clapped, and Xander felt like he was on top of the world. From that day on, Xander was known as the Extraordinary Xerxes, and he was loved and admired by all the animals in the land. He had shown that even though he was different, he was still capable of great things. And so, Xander's exceptional experience taught him that being different was something to be celebrated, and that everyone had their own unique talents and abilities. The end.
The Yodeling Yak's Yacht Yarn. Once upon a time, in a far-off land, there lived a yodeling yak named Yanni. Yanni was a happy-go-lucky yak who loved to sing and dance. He lived in a cozy little hut on the top of a hill, overlooking a beautiful lake. One day, while taking a stroll by the lake, Yanni saw a magnificent yacht sailing across the water. It was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. The yacht was owned by a wealthy businessman named Mr. Moneybags, who was known for his love of luxury and extravagance. Yanni was so fascinated by the yacht that he decided he wanted one for himself. He went to his friend, a wise old owl named Ali, for advice. Ali told him that if he wanted a yacht, he would have to work hard and save up enough money to buy one. Yanni was determined to get his yacht, so he started working odd jobs around the village. He helped the baker bake bread, he helped the farmer tend to his crops, and he even helped the blacksmith forge tools. Slowly but surely, Johnny saved up enough money to buy his very own yacht. He named his yacht the Yodeling Yak's Yacht and set sail across the lake. Johnny was so happy that he started yodeling and singing at the top of his lungs. His yodeling was so loud and joyful that it attracted the attention of all the animals in the forest. Soon, Johnny's yacht became the talk of the town. Everyone wanted to see the Yodeling Yak's yacht and hear him sing. Johnny became a local celebrity, and he loved every minute of it. One day, while sailing on his yacht, Johnny saw Mr. Moneybags' yacht sailing towards him. Mr. Moneybags was impressed by Johnny's yacht and offered to buy it from him for a large sum of money. But Johnny refused. He had worked too hard to get his yacht, and he wasn't going to give it up for anything. From that day on, Johnny continued to sail his yacht across the lake, yodeling and singing to his heart's content. He had everything he ever wanted, and he was the happiest yak in the world. And so, the story of the Yodeling Yak's Yacht yarn came to an end. But Johnny's adventures continued, and he lived happily ever after.
The youthful yak's yearning for yonder. Once upon a time, in a far-off land, there lived a youthful yak named Yura. Yura was a curious and adventurous yak who loved to explore the world around her. She had a big heart and a kind spirit, and she always looked for ways to help others. One day, Yura heard about a magical land called Yonder. It was said that Yonder was a place where dreams came true and anything was possible. Yura was intrigued and decided that she wanted to go there. Yura set out on her journey, determined to reach Yonder. Along the way, she met many interesting creatures, including a friendly fox named Felix and a wise old owl named Ophelia. They became fast friends and joined Yura on her quest. As they traveled, Yura noticed that Felix had trouble seeing things that were far away, and Ophelia had trouble hearing things that were quiet. Yura didn't think anything of it, though. To her, they were just her friends, and she loved them just the way they were. Finally, after many days of traveling, Yura and her friends arrived at Yonder. It was everything they had heard and more. The colors were brighter, the air was sweeter, and the possibilities were endless. Yura was overjoyed, but she noticed that Felix and Ophelia seemed hesitant. She asked them what was wrong, and they confided in her that they were worried that their differences would make them stand out in Yonder. Yura smiled and told them that their differences were what made them special. She reminded them that they were her friends, and that was all that mattered. Felix and Ophelia were touched by Yura's words, and they realized that they had been worrying for nothing. They joined Yura in exploring Yonder, and they had the time of their lives. When it was time to leave, Yura and her friends said goodbye to Yonder and headed back home. Yura felt happy and fulfilled, knowing that she had helped her friends see that their differences were nothing to be ashamed of. From that day on, Yura, Felix, and Ophelia remained the best of friends, and they continued to explore the world together, always remembering that their differences were what made them unique and special.
The zebra's stripes are a colorful mystery. Once upon a time, there lived a zebra named Zippy. Zippy was a very curious zebra, and he was always asking questions about the world around him. One day, he asked his mom why he had stripes. His mom said that it was a mystery, and that no one knew why zebras had stripes. Zippy was determined to find out the answer, so he set off on an adventure to find out why he had stripes. He traveled far and wide, asking all sorts of animals if they knew the answer. But no one seemed to know. Finally, he came across a wise old elephant. The elephant said that he knew the answer, but he wouldn't tell Zippy until he had solved a riddle. The riddle was, "What is the color of the stripes on a zebra's back?" Zippy thought and thought, but he couldn't figure out the answer. He asked the elephant for a hint, and the elephant said that the answer was hidden in the colors of the rainbow. Zippy was so excited. He ran off to find the colors of the rainbow. He searched high and low, and eventually he found them. He put the colors together and realized that the stripes on a zebra's back were black and white. Zippy was so happy that he had solved the riddle. He thanked the elephant and ran back home to tell his mom the answer. His mom was so proud of him for solving the mystery of the zebra's stripes. From then on, Zippy was known as the zebra who solved the colorful mystery.
The Zestful Zebra's Zigzag Zenith. Once upon a time, in a lush green jungle, there lived a zebra named Zara. Zara was no ordinary zebra, she had a unique pattern of stripes that zigzagged all over her body. Her friends in the jungle loved her for her colorful stripes and her zestful personality. One day, Zara decided to explore the jungle and find new friends. She met a group of monkeys who were swinging from tree to tree. They were amazed by Zara's stripes and asked her to join them in their game of tag. Zara happily agreed and showed off her zigzag moves, making the monkeys laugh and cheer. Next, Zara met a family of elephants who were taking a bath in the river. They were fascinated by Zara's stripes and asked her to join them in their water games. Zara splashed around with the elephants, showing off her unique style and making new friends. As Zara continued her journey, she met a group of birds who were singing in the trees. They were mesmerized by Zara's stripes and asked her to join them in their choir. Zara sang along with the birds, adding her own unique rhythm and melody to the song. At the end of the day, Zara returned to her home in the jungle, feeling happy and fulfilled. She realized that her stripes were not a disability, but a special gift that made her stand out and brought joy to those around her. From that day on, Zara continued to explore the jungle, making new friends and spreading her zestful spirit wherever she went. And the animals in the jungle loved her even more for her colorful stripes and her positive attitude. The end.
The Zippy Zor's Zero-Gravity Zone. Once upon a time, in a faraway land, there lived a Zorse named Zippy. Zippy was a unique creature, with the stripes of a zebra and the body of a horse. He loved to run and play, but he always felt like something was missing. One day, while playing in the fields, Zippy stumbled upon a strange object. It was a small, silver orb that glowed with a bright light. Zippy was curious and decided to investigate. As he approached the orb, he felt a strange sensation. Suddenly, he was lifted off the ground and began to float in the air. Zippy was amazed and delighted. He had discovered a zero-gravity zone. Zippy spent hours playing in the zero-gravity zone, doing flips and somersaults in the air. He was having so much fun that he didn't even notice the other animals gathering around him. The animals were amazed by Zippy's new ability and wanted to try it out for themselves. Zippy was happy to share his discovery, and soon, all the animals were playing in the zero-gravity zone. There was a clumsy elephant who kept bumping into things, a graceful gazelle who twirled and spun in the air, and a mischievous monkey who loved to play pranks on the other animals. Zippy was thrilled to have so many new friends to play with. They spent hours laughing and playing in the zero-gravity zone, and Zippy felt like he had finally found what he had been missing. From that day on, Zippy and his friends would gather in the zero-gravity zone to play and have fun. They had discovered a new world of adventure and excitement, and they knew that they would always have each other to share it with. And so, the Zippy-Zor's zero-gravity zone became a place of joy and wonder, where anything was possible and anything could happen. And Zippy knew that he had found his true home, surrounded by his friends and the magic of the zero-gravity zone.
Zany Zebra's Zigzag Adventure. Once upon a time, in the heart of the African savannah, there lived a zany zebra named Ziggy. Ziggy was not like any other zebra in the herd. He loved to dance, sing, and play pranks on his friends. His stripes were not straight like the others, but they zigzagged all over his body, making him stand out from the rest. One day, while playing with his friends, Ziggy heard a loud roar coming from the nearby jungle. Curious and adventurous, he decided to investigate. His friends warned him not to go, but Ziggy was determined to find out what was making that noise. As he entered the jungle, Ziggy met a group of animals who were lost and scared. There was a baby elephant, a monkey, and a parrot. They had wandered away from their families and didn't know how to get back home. Ziggy knew he had to help them. He used his sharp memory and sense of direction to guide them through the jungle. They crossed rivers, climbed trees, and even swung on vines like Tarzan. Ziggy's zigzag stripes helped them stay on track, and they followed him without hesitation. As they journeyed deeper into the jungle, they encountered a fierce lion who blocked their path. Ziggy knew he had to be brave and protect his new friends. He stood in front of them and started to dance and sing. The lion was so amused by Ziggy's silly moves that he forgot about being angry and joined in the fun. With the lion's help, Ziggy and his friends finally found their way back home. They were greeted with cheers and hugs from their families. Ziggy's friends thanked him for his bravery and promised to never forget their zany zebra friend. From that day on, Ziggy became a hero in the savannah. He continued to dance, sing, and play pranks, but he also became known as a loyal and brave friend. His zigzag stripes became a symbol of his adventurous spirit and his willingness to help others. And so, the zany zebra's zigzag adventure came to an end, but his legacy lived on forever.